Welcome back to the CEO's Off the Record podcast. If you are a business owner, a leader, or someone building something meaningful, and you're trying to do it without burning yourself out or your business to the ground, I am really excited about this episode because today I am speaking with friend to the show, Krista Anderson, CEO of Healthy on the Go. Krista has been building her business for about 11 years, which in entrepreneurial time is basically a lifetime. Since we last spoke to Krista, she has continued growing her business while doing something many entrepreneurs only dream about: living abroad. She runs a US based healthy food business while living in France. Today's conversation is going way beyond strategy. We're going to be talking about what it takes to keep a business going long term and what you need to do to make sure you don't burn out on that business that you're trying to build. This is one of those conversations where you feel like you've sat down with an old friend who's getting ready to tell you the real about this thing we call entrepreneurship. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your afternoon margarita, get a notebook and a pen, and settle in for a dynamic episode. Krista, welcome back to the CEO's Off the Record podcast. I am so excited to have you back again.
I am so excited to be back. I so loved our conversation the first time. So thank you for having me back again.
No problem. No problem. So we're going to jump right into it. I want you to take us back to the early days of Healthy on the Go and tell us, what did starting a business look like for you back then?
Well, I will say if I can do it, anybody can. And I know that's very cliche to say, but I had no business experience. I had no industry really experience at all. And I basically used Google at that time to research how to register a business and where to find information about, the organic natural food industry. And so during my research, I found a trade show, an industry trade show that was going on in Maryland. And so I thought, okay, let me fly there. Let me check it out. Let me talk to everybody, ask questions, dig deeper. And so that's what I did. And while I was there, actually, it was the fuel to my fire story that took me a long way in the business. But there was a gentleman I pulled off stage after he got done speaking at a kind of a breakout session. And he was the VP of the head of like one of the top brokerage, kind of food brokerage companies in the US. And I pulled him aside and I was like, I've got some questions. I'm thinking about, I've got this business idea I want to start. And I just gave him a couple ideas about putting healthier foods in gas stations. This was my idea at the time. And I said, can I buy you coffee and ask you some questions? So it's like this bold move, right? To get the industry information and resources. And so he was like, let's go to lunch. So I sat down with him, long story short. And by the end of the conversation, sharing my idea, learning about their business and how it works. And he said, Krista, healthy food in a gas station does not sell. And we tried it and it'll never work. So I wouldn't waste your time. And so I left that trade show completely defeated. And I went back home and I sat and thought about it for days. And I was just gutted. Like the wind got knocked out of my sails. And I thought, I bet you it's marketing. They didn't market it properly. And so that's what was my, like, I can't give up on my people. We've got to change the health of America. We've got to give people access to healthier foods. So I took that passion, the marketing idea of to make this a better concept, and then I just went for it. And I sold everything I owned and took that money, started the company, and passion is what's led me as far as we are today. So
I absolutely love that story, mainly because I tell people, before you get started in anything that you're doing, please go talk to some people. And it's interesting because I talk about the positive side of that, but you're absolutely right. There are people out there, even, the ones at the top, the gurus, the ones who are getting a lot of shine, that will try to discourage you or put their I don't want to say failures, but their inability to achieve a certain goal on you. And
Yep.
you have to learn how to compartmentalize and divide out information that's good that you can take from an experience or from what someone says and throw away all of the negativity because you're right. People here in America, we do want good, healthy food. Truckers want good, healthy food, and they're on the road all the time. So,
Yeah. I love how you say divide it out and, like, know what buckets, right, to put information in and advice, and, there's two things there is people and when you think about talking to your best friend about her breakup or her relationship, it's the same way. It's we give advice based on our own life experience, and you also have to look at the fact that do they, A, believe in themselves? Do they believe the idea? And a lot of these corporate entities, they don't know how to think outside the box. They move in the box at all times and with the box. And so I think I have had somebody tell me a few years back, because of course, the first podcast interview we did, that I lost everything and I had to start rebuilding the company. And at that time, I had somebody tell me to file bankruptcy. And if I would have done that, we would not be where we are today. And so the key, I think, for people is to listen to your gut and your intuition and always follow that no matter what anybody says, even if it's your parents, your best friend, your spouse, you know?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what's for you, I believe this with every ounce of my being. What is for you is for you. It may be that, so and so wasn't able to do it because, call it God, call it whoever, you look to, moved them out of the way so you could come through. So
Mm, like,
don't allow other people's inability to do something to mean you can't do it. And I had to learn that the hard way. The reason that I didn't go into computer science and didn't get my degree in computer science was because I had a math tutor who told me girls aren't good at math. And so this is not something you should probably be doing. And I listened to him.
oh my gosh, no. Yeah. How
And
many
I
people
listened to him.
How many dreams are dead because people listen
Right.
to?
Exactly. What's crazy is that fast forward 15 years, I was a data analyst for IBM.
Hmm.
Right. So, yeah, don't let people rain on your movement, your forward movement. You move forward and to hell with the rest of them.
Amen, sir. Absolutely.
So, when you think about those first few years in business, what decisions did you make early on that had the biggest long-term effect and impact on your business?
A lot of things. I would say my belief in the idea in myself is what, without that or the passion, right, about the idea or making change, that's what drives the business every time it gets difficult. And when you feel at rock bottom, but if that still lives in you, that you've got to do something about XYZ, whatever the gap in the marketplace is you're trying to fix,
Mhm.
that's what keeps you afloat. And I've had to learn to fight for it. And sometimes it's, you've got to be knocked down and sit there for a bit, wallow in it if you need to. But at some point, you've got to find your way out and get back up and fight. And I would say what's really interesting that I've learned over the years is when I've had failures in the business, it's always rerouted me to rebuild a different strategy that in the end has always been better and more profitable. And so, and I would say the other thing is I've learned to ask for help
Mhm.
with colleagues just to bounce ideas, still always being guided by myself in the end with the decision. But I think that's also helpful, but
Yeah. I want to stop you and stress this because I think a lot of people think that entrepreneurship is get out there, hustle, grind, work hard. You don't need help. You don't need to ask anybody anything. You get out there, you should already know what to do. And that is the biggest lie and con in entrepreneurship. Ask for help. I am so glad you said that, because please ask for some help. If you need assistance, ask, because not one person, I don't care who it is, the most, the person in the world with the most money, the person in the world with the most money in history, they all had somebody help them. They didn't get there completely on their own. So I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a negative thing. It's you just we don't know everything about everything, and we need to find those that do know everything about a specific topic or yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when you were in those starter years, what what was required of you that you didn't expect? Or you thought that entrepreneurship is going to be one way, and in reality you're like, whoa, I did not see that coming.
I love that you talk about the grind, and that's something that I've learned hard work since I was young. From my parents and just my childhood growing up in the Midwest and milking cows at a young age. So, like, I've always had the grind in me, but I would say that it's a huge burnout after a few years. And I think what I've never realized until, of course, moving to France taught me this, because I let go and gave up what it felt like I was giving up the business, giving up my life in the United States and walking away from all of it. But what it taught me was letting go and living with balance. Working 5 hours a day maybe gets more results than grinding it out all the time. That sounds like it doesn't compute or mathematically add up, but actually the energy I think of when you're balanced in your life, you're you've got your sports, your yoga, you're taking care of you, that your main focus is not making money and not, your business, that the business in turn grows faster and more by default. It's the weirdest thing. I've lived it. I see people living it. And I think that's what, when you talk about cons in business as entrepreneurs, I would say that's one of the big ones too, because we're taught this mindset in the United States, the societal pressure of like, in order to succeed, you've got to be famous, you got to be well known, you've got to make a bunch of money. And the only way to do that is to work your ass off doing it. And it's simply not true. You can have the things you want by letting go and just being purposeful with your time and less grind.
Oh my goodness, I love you. i
Well,
i I wrote an article yesterday
yeah.
called The Biggest Con in Entrepreneurship. And I talked about grinding and hustling, particularly because I feel like nobody has ever looked at the real definition of either of those words. And when you do, to grind something is to turn it to powder. Why
Mm,
are we turning ourselves into powder? Like,
yeah.
w-
What happens?
it does. But, then if you work full, let's say 10 hours, 12 hours straight on your business, I guarantee you the last 4 to 5 hours, you're going to have to redo tomorrow because you got tired, but you pushed through it. Is it your best work? I'd much rather spend time on my best work and put that out there. And maybe it takes me 2 days to do something instead of one, than to grind through it. And then what I put out there is not 100% something I want to get behind. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like I scream it, and it feels good to have someone else co-sign that that's not, there is another way to
That's
do
the thing.
business.
There is another way, and I did see your article on LinkedIn. I saw
Oh,
the post, yeah.
thank you.
And I love that you talk about that, and it's such a great place to talk about it, is the LinkedIn community, and I think one of the things that's really challenging sometimes is I see colleagues wearing this badge of honor on them that they're traveling all the time. They don't have time for their kids and their husband, and they're running themselves to the ground, and it's the hustle culture, but they talk about it as it's like success. It's a badge of honor. And I look from the outside and I'm like, you're going to regret this someday because you could lose this whole business tomorrow. Not saying they will, but I've been there and it's like, what am I doing all this for if I can lose it all tomorrow? And then the reality is none of us are coming out of this life alive. So what are we doing all this for? Like we have a roof over our head. We're able to feed ourselves, like the basics. If you've got that, you're winning.
Yeah, exactly. I started the newsletter that I was referencing. I started called Quiet Entrepreneurship, and I did that because I am in love with, not my idea, I didn't coin the term, but I'm in love with that idea of a quiet entrepreneur, not necessarily having to get out and post every day and,
Yes.
doing all of the TikTok dances and being on every platform and constantly having to be on. It's exhausting.
Yep.
And I feel like people need to know that, like you said, there's another way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's big, within the Substack community. I don't know if you're on there,
I
but
am. Yeah.
I love jumping on there, and I love the mindset of
Mhm.
people supporting each other and feeling like they're done with the grind and they're living in a different way, and I think, how cool is it to be like a mysterious millionaire? Like, I would love to be like that. In the political climate we're in right now, I'm like, I don't want anybody to know my name. I don't want to be thrown under the bus for anything. Like,
Mm-mm.
so
Yeah,
just
exactly.
don't need all that to make money. There's so many people out there, like the guy who invented the swimming noodle, the long. I mean, he's like a bazillionaire, and like you don't know any. He's not on social media. Like, who
Mm-mm.
cares? He made his money. Go make your money and be quiet about it.
Exactly, exactly. It's interesting. Do you see living abroad versus, or living abroad, do you see a difference in the way people view work? Because I know here in America, like you said, it is a badge of honor. I'm constantly going here, 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 here. Oh, I've got to do all the things. Look at me. Is that
Mhm.
different in other countries, particularly over in Europe?
Yeah, and they look at Americans like, oh my god, you know. In France, I would say one of the shockers that actually stopped time in my little life was when I first come to visit in the south of France. So not Paris. Paris is like a New York City. So,
Mm,
there's a lot going on there and the energy of work. But you go to the south where it's more closer to Spain and Italy and it's slower living. And we were here to film a TV show. And I remember when we arrived at the set, the family that was running the chateau where we arrived to, they were like, "Oh, we have lunch for you prepared outside." And so we went and sat outside, had lunch, and we were supposed to start filming, I thought, when we arrived. We sat outside in the garden and had the most amazing fresh food and under the sun, and of course, some rose. And I don't know how many hours went by. And I remember sitting back in my chair thinking, they're not in a hurry to work at all.
mm,
And they've never once asked me, who I am, like in the way of who are you? Who do you know? And, just kind of the American culture of like everybody's
yeah.
defined by their career and title and accomplishments. It was more like, do you enjoy good food and good wine? And like, let's celebrate that and let's enjoy the moment and relax and laugh and have a good time. And so, absolutely, there's a huge difference. They live to enjoy life, not for work.
Mhm. I
And they
it that touched me. I think here, being physically here in America, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired.
Mhm.
And I know the people that are listening that are here in the US are probably like, "Eh, yeah." The thought, like as you're describing that and I'm thinking about it in my head, the thought of just being able to go outside and to eat fresh food and to not be,
Mhm.
afraid, and to take a moment for just a second and just live in that moment.
Yeah.
That sounds like the most amazing experience, and it feels so far away from where we are that it's like there's people out there living like that right now. Like right now, there are people that can do that right now. That's crazy to
Mm,
me.
yeah,
That's crazy.
absolutely.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
definitely something to take note of and try to adapt to in the United States. I know it's
And I think that's why so many people are leaving.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah,
there's a mass exodus of people I know personally. They're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, my husband and I, we're letting our son, finish out the end of the school year, and then in the summer we're hitting the road. We're going to Mexico. We're going here. We're going there." And I'm just like, when I was talking about leaving years ago, people said, "Are you crazy?" And now they
yeah,
they left me behind.
yeah, people are getting secondary passports
Yeah,
and yeah.
yeah. I'm ready to go. I'm gonna
No,
be
I
honest
I
with you.
about that.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm ready to go. And at this point, I don't really care where I go. I gotta go. Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so getting back to your journey through entrepreneurship, what would you say are some mistakes that you made in the past that you believe now, hindsight is 2020, right?
Mm.
Um, you believe now were part of your growth, and you probably wouldn't have been able to get to where you are now had you not made those mistakes.
I think it goes back to balance. I hate to beat it with a drum, but it really is finding balance in life and not making, you know, I always wanted to be known so that my voice could change the health of America, that I could advocate. And I still, of course, want that, but I don't strive for it anymore. And I think, and we can easily get into that. So it really is just finding balance and letting go. I think that's some of the greatest life lessons I've learned in business is,
Mhm.
you know, and I try to share it with people. And I think a lot of times people aren't listening because they are stuck and they don't see that they're in the grind. Because everyone else around them is. And I was there too. I would have never known there was a way out until I went to another culture that lived differently. So I think that's, yeah, it's definitely one of the greater lessons. And all, like everything we've talked about since the beginning of the conversation is listening to yourself
Yeah.
and um just going for it, like taking risks. Like this,
Mhm.
you've got one life, another cliche phrase, but live it. I mean, just what
Right.
why not? Like I think some of the greatest people that have made history, they took risks and did some really bold things. And why not? And I think we hold ourselves back with fear in our
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah. How do you find balance in all that you do? And how do you walk away from work
Mm.
when, you've been working all day? How do you know when it's time to, whoa, I need to go touch grass?
Touch grass, yeah, exactly. For breathe the air outside. I just shut it down.
Mhm.
I know it's gonna be there tomorrow, and because I am, 6, 7, 8 hours ahead of the US, I get my day started earlier,
Mhm.
here so that it's quite very quiet. So I can get a lot done, in those quiet moments, but I also take a huge, like, 2-hour break in the middle of my day that is having a nourishing meal, sitting in and enjoying it, and then, also some sort of sports or workout, yoga, something like that, that's in the middle of my day, so that keeps me balanced. I'm taking
Mm.
time, and then I go back into my work and work, kind of late sometimes here, but I shut it down. Like, I could work all the time, like anybody could, but, I just know it'll be there tomorrow, and none of this actually really matters in the grand scheme of things. So, I prefer to enjoy my life.
Now, when you started your business, you were here in the US, and then you moved your business abroad, correct?
Yeah.
How did you, how did you, like, what was that decision making process like to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this abroad? Because the one thing that I've thought about is I've got this whole company. If I live somewhere else, that just, it feels overwhelming to move a company abroad. So what was that thought process like?
I think for you, what you're doing that it's quite global,
Mm,
and I think that's amazing. Like you can reach globally people. And so you could really do it from anywhere.
mm,
In a lot of ways, from my business, so I live here, I work from home, but it's for the US company. I do have a French company set up for the same business for Europe. It's just not fully active and
mm,
running in the way that the US is. So a lot of my effort and time is for the US market at the moment. So for me, I've always had the vision, and it's been on my whiteboard since the day I started my company, is bring health and healing to the nations, not to the nation, the United States, but to the nations, to the world. And so this to me, it's like being guided into that that future plan that I guess it's been a dream and a vision,
mhm,
but never knew if it would actually unfold, and I still don't know. But that's the goal, and things kind of go that way. So for me with that is setting up a company in a foreign country is incredibly hard.
yeah,
The best thing to do is get involved in the expat community, find the local. This is all can be done on Facebook, and these Facebook groups is searching for the expat community, searching for the city kind of groups where there's communities like that, and just launching questions in there and connecting with people. And one of the first things I did here, actually, if this helps anybody, is I started a what they call like an apero. So you get together for drinks. And I started a group called International Entrepreneurs of the city I'm in, and set it up, posted it in this large Facebook expat community group on Facebook, and invited everybody. Hey, at 7 o'clock, we're going to have drinks. And if you're a business owner, come share your business. Let's connect. And so I started doing that, and that community really started to grow. And you start to realize, hey, you're not the only expat with a business here, and you're not isolated and alone anymore. And so that actually was quite interesting because you meet so many people with so many different businesses and ideas, and
yeah,
they all know people globally. So it's really a great way, I think, to get connected.
mhm.
But it goes back to the beginning of, I'll just wrap up saying this, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Go to that trade show and find the people in the industry and ask questions. And I think, if you're wanting to live abroad, join these groups, get in there, ask questions before you even leave, and find your answers.
That's interesting that you say that. I One of the things that I heavily, heavily, heavily promote um, is building an ecosystem around you. So a lot of people think that, in their business, they just have their customers, maybe you have also vendors, but they don't think about the entirety of those that surround their business as this huge ecosystem. And a lot of small businesses in particular miss out on that community part, that part where I'm surrounded by people who, you know, don't necessarily share the same audience as me or customer base or anything, but they are also just in business. And there's so much that can be learned from just other people that are going through, or I want to say taking the same path as you. Because I feel like even though we're all on the same path, I might have sticks, you might have rocks. Like your path, even though I can see you, we are not walking the same path. And
Mhm.
it's crazy that you can have so many people in the room that are all entrepreneurs and everybody is walking down this road that looks completely different.
Mhm.
But the elements are the same. The
Yeah.
needs are the same. So there's a lot that can be learned from other people. I'm so, so glad that you said that.
Yep, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. As you are running your business abroad, what would you say you have done differently running your business over there as a US based company that you know, might do a little differently if you were physically here? Like, how often do you come back to the
Mm.
States? How does that work?
That's a great question. I come back almost 3 to 4 times a year, as needed for, key accounts
Yeah.
that I have. So my large accounts, that have different meetings that I need to do or trade shows or seminars, things like that, that I need to be there and be the face of the company. I would say if I was there, I would be more actively advocating publicly where people would be hearing my voice and seeing me, in the trenches out there. I'd definitely be doing a lot more publicly in person. But the thing that I know about myself is I would be grinding
Mm.
real heavy doing that. So it was a battle for me in the beginning to let that go because I have now had to find ways to pivot that, and that's been through social media. LinkedIn is a great platform that I find a lot of value in getting our message out and really connecting with people and growing the business. But I've also relied on my team there. Like I have people that work with me and our partners, finding creative ways to work with my clients and my customers, to get the message out and to spread the word. And um, yeah, and I think a lot of it has been having boots on the ground there, but also thinking creatively about how we can work with our customers and clients and business partners. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I have one more question for you. One more
Yes.
question. And this one is a little fun, a little less heavy. So, if you could sit across from someone that is in their first year of business,
Mhm.
what would you want them to understand about longevity and having longevity in business and having resilience? Something that, you know, that would get them over that that hump that I've heard. I haven't experienced it yet, but my company's very new. So to get them over that hump and be able to see clearly down the road.
I have a lot of things I would say to somebody in their first year. Of course, maintaining the balance and putting yourself first before the business. Secondly, knowing your story and telling that, I think is really important. I wanted to mention this earlier, but I didn't want to go too far into it. But I think storytelling is a huge key to growing a business. I think it's the heartbeat of the business. It's what closes our deals 9 times out of 10 is the story of why we do what we do and what we're fighting for and handing the baton to people to join us in that fight.
Oh,
So knowing what your story is and sharing that in a captivating way and utilizing your passion and belief behind that story when you are telling it is inspiring to the person listening and, inspires them to perhaps join you in what you're doing as a customer or client. So I would really, I think that is a key part, almost the most important part of growing a business is knowing your story and how to tell it in a captivating way, but in an authentic way, not in a manipulative way of trying to gain sales or exposure or clickbait, but really having something you're fighting for and sharing that.
yeah, yeah. I have to agree with you that that's actually something that shocked me when I first started. I came out to tell my story about walking away from my job, but I did it because I wanted people to know how I got here, not necessarily thinking people were going to say, oh my God, I connect with that. Like I want to walk away. I walked away too. And it brought people toward me that in a way that I wasn't expecting. I was just trying to say, this is how I started. Like, this is why I'm standing in front of you, because I walked away from this crappy job. And I was not prepared for the connection that came from simply telling that story. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a huge thing, storytelling. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Krista, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I love talking to you. I'm like so excited every time I talk to you because
I'm
you have
feeling
so
comfortable.
much great information to share.
Well, you ask great questions, and I think you really have a future in what you're doing. And I pray that the world hears your voice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a rough year, but that's okay because 2026 is going to be amazing. I am believing that.
It will be.
Yes.
Believe it.
It will. It will. So, where can people find Healthy on the Go while they are moving around? Because we're getting ready to get towards spring break. People are going to be hitting the roads. Where can they find healthy snacks?
Airports nationwide, look for us. You'll see my face on the signs, Healthy on the Go. And we're in hospitals, we're in some universities. Yeah, hopefully they don't have to find me in a hospital, but we're there. But I would say that our airport store is probably the easiest. But we're across the country, so
Okay.
look for us.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I will say this. Except for people having babies. When I was really small, I thought because the my neighbor across the street from me, she was pregnant and she had a baby. And when she was ready to give birth, they had to call the ambulance. So me being, little 7-year-old Jessica, I thought ambulance equal baby. So it was many years. Every time I saw an ambulance, I'm like, somebody's having a baby.
Wouldn't that be nice that that's the only
Right?
reason?
And my mom, bless her heart, she just let me think it. She was like, "Yeah, yes, sweetie, absolutely." And I'm like, "Oh, this baby." So now when I hear, somebody went to the hospital, I'm like, "Ah, baby, having a baby, having lots of babies."
Yeah.
My friends hate that because they're like, "I'm gonna have a baby." I'm like, "Oh, two, three." They're like, "Don't do that to me." I like babies; they're cute.
Well,
Anyway, thank you, Krista, for joining me. I am going to put all of your contact information and your website in the show notes and in the description of this video on YouTube. I am so excited every time you come. So I thank you so much for joining me today.
thank you for having me. Thank you.